Hello guys, welcome back to another election prediction video. This time we're doing a 2024 Republican primary prediction with the top 4 candidates so far in the primary polling. So we have Donald Trump, the former president, Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, Mike Pence, the former vice president with Donald Trump, and Ron DeSantis. All 4 of these candidates I think are going to be running. We already have Nikki Haley and Donald Trump running. And I expect DeSantis will announce in May of this year, and Mike Pence probably follows up soon in April or May. I do expect him to run. So, let's start off with the first 4 primary states and how they're going to play out. So, with Iowa, obviously, Trump's going to be probably in first place with around 40% of the vote, while DeSantis will probably be around, I would say, 32%. So, Trump gets the state by a likely margin. Pence probably finishes probably around 12.5, while Nikki Haley gets third. That's how I would assume the caucus would play out in Iowa. The next state would be New Hampshire, and honestly, Trump isn't the favorite for this state. Even in a crowded primary like this one, I still think DeSantis pulls out a very narrow victory, while Trump only gets 31% of the vote. Mike Pence ends up probably around 18%, while Nikki Haley gets 13%. It'll be a pretty crowded primary, sort of like this. The next state to go would be South Carolina, and this is where people would probably drop out. So, Mike Pence obviously would just finish in last place. He really doesn't have the best appeal here. Nikki Haley, however, the polling does say she'll get around in the 20s. I think she finishes off with at least 24%, while DeSantis, he just finishes slightly ahead of her at 28%, and Trump carries the state against her. So at this point, I expect Nikki Haley to drop out of the race. Mike Pence will probably stay until Nevada, hoping he could get a victory with Nikki Haley dropping out. DeSantis would probably finish around 36 to 40. I'm going to say 40%. Trump would probably get around 36%. And Pence would probably get around, I would say, 16 or 20. I'm going to put it at 16. So the remaining 8%, we just have to divide it up like this. Each of them 44 to 40 to 16. Something like this split, I expect. Because I do see DeSantis doing slightly better with Latino voters here. I think Nikki Haley dropping out would give DeSantis a decent boost. If Nikki Haley was still in, Trump would win the state. But as these other Trump candidates who are not, as these anti-Trump candidates drop out, their support's going to pile on to DeSantis. At this point, I expect Mike Pence to also drop out of the race. So now we're just going to go to margins for these remaining states. Okay, so for Super Tuesday states, obviously Vermont, it's just going to be safe DeSantis. I don't think Trump really has a chance in Vermont. Let's head to Arkansas, Oklahoma. Very strong Trump states. He would carry them by pretty safe margins, honestly. It really wouldn't be that competitive. In Georgia, again, a very pro-DeSantis state. He would probably win it by around 15 points against Donald Trump. You'd pretty much easily carry Georgia. Trump's influence in the Georgia primaries are already very weak. He couldn't even oust Brian Kemp with David Perdue. Perdue lost in a landslide, so he really wouldn't have a shot there. In Massachusetts and Maine, I think both these states would go to DeSantis as of right now. I changed my opinion on Massachusetts. I think that DeSantis could really win the state against Trump. It tends to be a more moderate GOP state. Even though that Charlie Baker would have lost the primary here, I do think DeSantis is a lot less moderate than Baker, and he could appeal better to those more right-wing Republicans in the state. In Virginia, I expect Youngkin to endorse DeSantis. She's probably going to angle for that VP spot, and I could see that helping him in Virginia quite a bit. North Carolina, I'll save that one. I think that's going to be a very close swing state. Tennessee, I don't really see DeSantis winning here. I think that poll that showed him up, I don't really think it's fully accurate, but I could be wrong. But this will probably be a likely state for Trump. It could go down to lean if that poll was accurate, but I still think it would be a state in favor of Trump here. Alabama, there's a poll that showed DeSantis up in Alabama as well. I kind of doubt it. I'm going to put it as a lean margin for now. I really think Trump's base really is in the states of Tennessee and Alabama. I really think he would still carry these states against DeSantis. Okay, for the state of Minnesota, the state hates Trump. DeSantis would probably win it by a likely margin, and Colorado and Utah would easily go to DeSantis here. The state of California, with Pence and Nikki Haley dropped out, I think DeSantis would be the slight favorite here. He'd pick up their supporters, putting him in the lead here. And for the state of Texas, still think it would go to Trump by a narrow margin, just by a lean margin, I would say. And that's all the Super Tuesday states. So Trump wins about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states against DeSantis. Well, DeSantis carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 states. So as of right now, DeSantis would have a lot of momentum going his way. And this is where we're going to probably see him start to take the lead in the national polling. But we'll start off with the next few states. Mississippi, I think this would be a pretty solid Trump state, about a likely state to put it. Missouri, some polls showed DeSantis in striking distance here, so I'm going to put it into the lean margin, but I still think Trump would have a decent-sized base in this state. Michigan, still think Trump would carry, still think he would have that populist appeal in the state of Michigan, but DeSantis could win this state if the momentum really starts to shift towards his way. North Dakota, it's a weird process that he's got over here. It's like the delegates vote. I just think the delegates will side with DeSantis because they see him as more electorally better off for their party. The state of Idaho, again, Mormons in this state, just like Utah, they really do not like Trump. Even though they voted for him in the presidential election, they would definitely vote for anyone against him in a primary, and I just think the Idaho Mormons would definitely side with DeSantis. It's not as Mormon as Utah, which is why it's only a lean margin. But that's how I'd see it going. Washington would also go to DeSantis. It's a more moderate state. Okay, so these next few states. Kentucky and Louisiana would probably be up next, and Trump would still win Louisiana by a likely margin, easily win Kentucky. Again, a lot of his base is in this state. The next few states I could see going is North Carolina. I just think DeSantis would still win the state by a lean margin. Momentum's going his way. Florida, easily win. Ohio, it would just be a likely state. Again, it's kind of Trump's base here. He'd win it pretty easily. Same with Illinois. His base is in the Midwest, basically. Nebraska and Kansas and Arizona. I think Nebraska would be a pretty solid state, while Kansas would be about a likely state. Arizona, though, I think DeSantis would narrowly flip this state in Wyoming. I think it would be a closer state, but I just think Trump would narrowly edge out DeSantis here. Okay. D.C. would easily go to DeSantis. Hawaii, again, it would probably be about a likely state. Same with Alaska. I could see more moderate Republicans just living here voting for him. I mean, Murkowski did beat back that Trump challenger, so that's a good indication that Trump wouldn't really be favored in Alaska at this point. But let's see the next few states. The next state in the primary calendar would probably be Wisconsin, and I still think that Trump would be narrowly favored to win it just because of his more populist appeal in the state. New York, I don't know why people keep giving it to DeSantis. Even though there's a lot of moderate Republicans in the state, it still was Trump's home state. I still think he'd be extremely favored to win it and probably would still carry it against DeSantis. Okay, next few states. Maryland and Delaware. I think Maryland, believe it or not, would go to DeSantis. I think Hogan would probably just end up backing him, and I could see a lot of the more right-wing Republicans still end up voting for DeSantis. He's not as moderate as Hogan is, but I still think he would get the moderate faction and a bit of Trump supporters his way. While Delaware, I still see it voting for Trump. Connecticut and Rhode Island, I see them narrowly backing DeSantis by lean margins, while Trump wins PA by a lean margin. So, these remaining states here, let's go through them. So, we're going to start off with Indiana and West Virginia, easily Trump victories here. I really don't think DeSantis would have a shot at winning them. New Mexico, Oregon, see them both going to DeSantis. Montana, see it narrowly going towards DeSantis, and I see South Dakota narrowly going towards Trump. Now, the state of New Jersey, again, I would say it's hard one to pick. I think DeSantis is being narrowly favored here. I think he would do out the Italian voters in this state, and I just think he would narrowly carry them because it's a more moderate GOP state. But these remaining districts here, or territories, I think Trump would be favored to win easily in most of these territories, except for Puerto Rico, which I see as a likely DeSantis victory. So overall, I mean, the primary math does show Trump winning here, but If you factor in how states divide their delegate rules, I still think it would be a very close race, and I think DeSantis would be slightly favored if it were a contested convention, which is why I still think that DeSantis would pretty much end up winning the primary. He would probably convince any remaining Nikki Haley or Mike Pence delegates to back him. He would probably split the votes among the delegates in the Rust Belt states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, so we might end up seeing something like this. Let me just do the math here. Let me just make that a little bit more narrow. PA, definitely be in a lot more of a competitive state. It would be, yeah, like 1290, 1233. That's kind of expect the delegate math to break down here. And I think DeSantis narrowly win the primary. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.